What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Crossover Commerce. I'm Ryan Kramer. I'm your host today. Thanks for joining us. I'm with PingPong Payments. For those of you who don't know me or haven't tuned in, I'm the affiliate marketing manager here for PingPong Payments. So welcome for joining us live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all the other social media channels. Thanks for joining us. I am joined today. I have a very special guest with me, Francois from Noviland. Francois is the business development I would say partnerships, kind of the jack of all trades, person who knows what he's talking about over there at Noviland. I have a very long title for you, not just the business development manager. But Francois, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. This is probably one of the more exciting ones that I'm joining on after hearing a lot of your different topics that you talked about. So I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no problem. And for those of you who don't know, we at Crossover Commerce touch on a little bit of everything in the e-commerce market, anywhere from like funding. Last week we talked about just agencies. Weeks before that we talked PPC, Prime Day. We talked a little bit about everything. So I needed someone to talk about supply chain logistics, not just the beautiful side and thinking like, hey, it's easy to get my product from, India or China over to the United States, or sourcing it from different ways, either sourcing or even just, getting my product from point A to point B. I need someone to talk about what really goes on, what happens, and what are kind of the ugly truths about it, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows like a lot of people want to think. But Francois is here to really kind of like talk about those kinds of misconceptions. But we want to answer those questions so that we're educating and giving you a different perspective in terms of what we can do to either help you, with that supply chain, or just answer general questions that you might have as a consumer. So Francois, misconceptions, man, we had so many topics that we were discussing before this kind of live session. It can go a lot of different places. So why don't you kind of walk me through maybe a little bit about your background, kind of establish yourself, why you are where you are, and we can go from there.
Yeah. So I'm one of the few ones that just got lucky with a great company right when they sort of got off the ground here at Noviland. And boy, I was part of the first 5, just members, part of the team. And the whole point of it was really to streamline and make the supply chain a lot safer overall. And that's our goal. That's our mission. And we saw that there was this huge need with Amazon sellers, and particularly because, and I know everyone has seen these ads. If you thought about selling on Amazon or even hinted at selling on Amazon, I'm sure your phone listened to you and popped up an ad for you that says, hey, invest $1,000, make $1 million. But what they don't say, and you might even see videos about, those that are actually successful. I just watched, I believe it's Seth Kniep or something.
Yes,
like
that. Yes, Seth from Just One Dime. Yep.
Yes, I just saw one of his videos, and he was talking to someone that made $16 million, and they brought up a great point that there's all these different courses that will tell you, hey, it's so easy. Like you said, it's just rainbows and unicorns, and you can do all these different things with Amazon. And that's the truth. You could make a ton of money on Amazon, but they don't tell you the ugly truths in between. They don't tell you about the losses that they had, the thousands of dollars that they invested and it just flopped. So they had to just try to break even, or they just considered a complete loss, because this ultimately is an investment, right? This is not a side hustle like it might have been 10 years ago. This should not be seen as a side gig or side project. This can ultimately be a 40 to 80-hour work week for you, especially because you are the CEO, you are the purchasing manager, you are the product designer and engineer, you are the receiving manager. I mean, you're so many different, you're wearing so many different hats, right? That it's easy to lose track of, hey, this is an investment. I need to know when to cut my losses. I also need to know when to diversify, certain roles. So whether that's the purchasing or the sourcing. And so that's why I think this topic is so valuable, because people don't really realize what is going on behind the scenes. Why are people losing money? And it's not because they just made a bad investment. It's more than likely because they just didn't know what was going on in the background. They didn't know that they had to come prepared. I mean, even in the RFQs, we see it all the time. But I guess that's a little bit of why I'm here. In regards to the company, I got really lucky. I was in school studying industrial engineering. A lot of it had to do with processes and manufacturing and international supply chain at West Virginia University. And the team kept me on after that. And so, like you said before, I do wear sort of 1,000 hats, but I love it. It's exciting stuff. It's I get to speak with you, and I get to speak with so many others. I never would have thought that I was able to beforehand.
Yeah, and that's kind of the funny thing about startups, because Noviland is considered a startup. You guys are located in Atlanta, correct? You guys, as you sip your cup of coffee. Yeah, gotcha.
This one's from Boston, but yeah, Atlanta. We have another office in California, 2 more in China, 1 in Vietnam. So we're still a startup, even though we have 5 offices. And we treat it very much so. So we're very nimble. We listen to all of our users. One of I think the most fulfilling aspects of it is that I get to speak to every single one of our users as soon as they sign up. And I get to talk to them about some of these downfalls and what to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're a startup, you're international, so your expertise kind of expands more than just like, hey, I'm in my own office. I know what I'm talking about. You guys have lived you've lived through it, right? You have people who have sold before. You have people who are connected in the sourcing industry, the logistics industry. That's obviously what you guys do. So just like PingPong, where we are a global company, you guys are a global company, technically a startup as well. So what kind of, with the kind of the vision of Noviland, how did that come about? What was that niche that you guys wanted to take on and make it more of a, this is something we can really help out people with?
Well, just like most other, or I guess not most, but a lot of other startups, we wanted to go for the big companies, the enterprise level companies, and just take over their supply chain. Of course, that's easier said than done.
Exactly.
And so we started building out all these processes, and we kind of treated it more of a sourcing agency, where there was one person that was sort of wearing multiple hats throughout supply chain, and that's where a lot of people know, or what a lot of people know as a sourcing agent, a true sourcing agent that helps with the export, with the import, with the factory finding. And what we realized was you can really break these down into specialties. So you could have someone that is really, really, really good at working with factories and negotiating with them, and strategically even sourcing those Noviland partners within different parts of China, because you do business in different ways in different parts of China as well. And so we developed this role called a product specialist, and they also double as a factory specialist. And they work with all of our users to really develop the products, work with the factories to get the right quotes, keep everything accurate, draw up the contracts correctly, things like that as well. And then you have your logistics and order managers, and they're the ones that oversee the actual export and import process. They'll handle some of the packaging. They'll work with our IT team to develop the shipping algorithms also. And then we also have quality control inspectors. And of course, they handle the quality control side of things. So when you have one person that's overseeing every aspect of it, it really becomes a human resource thing where you are you have so much time on your hands within one day, so you can only service so many users, and you can only do that so effectively. So we developed all these individual roles, and now everyone has their own individual tasks within it. And that way, if someone has a problem with the production, then we talk to a product specialist. If someone has a problem with logistics, we talk to an order manager. And they're not distracted from their specialties. So they actually know what they're talking about. They know how to properly classify HS codes. They know, what's going on with general rate increases, with port congestion, particularly in Q4. It's so important. And so every single one of those positions can really catch those I guess, steep learning curves that traditionally Amazon sellers tend to have early on.
So you guys have a more focused approach instead of one person who kind of knows a little bit about everything. Is that correct?
You painted it beautifully with just a lot fewer words.
Hey, man, that's what I do. That's my job. Use less words and try to say more. No, that makes sense, because I know there's a lot of people who are like, going back to your courses and when you were kind of alluding to everyone earlier, for those of you who don't know or just don't sell on Amazon or just trying to think about selling on e-commerce, a lot of people are, where do I start? Where do I get information? And a lot of people in my former jobs and your job there, a lot of people go to courses, and those courses are either consumed for free or they look at YouTube tutorials, whether it's like how to sell on Amazon, how to start sourcing your first product. And by sourcing, I mean finding a product to sell on Amazon in general. And then people start thinking, wait a minute, I thought Amazon sold all these products. There's people actually selling these products, like other individuals like you and me. So it starts to like open up this door of world of Amazon marketplaces. And that's kind of the beauty about people just kind of know the tip of the iceberg when they go on Amazon, they purchase a product that looks really cool. They put in a keyword, like I'm going to see it in 2 days once I purchase it. There's so much more to that. And that's kind of what you and I today are here to open up that door and kind of talk about some of the ugly truths behind it, because nowadays Amazon is actually probably, I would say, of recent percentages, if you would agree or disagree, it's around 60+% is third-party sellers.
Right.
Is the products that you're finding on Amazon. So it's not just Amazon selling their own products. It's people like working out of their homes. They're going to be finding a product that they talk to a sourcing agent or a factory in the United States or in Europe or in China or in India, and they're going to bring that product to a warehouse and they're going to start selling out on marketplaces like Amazon. So that's where you guys come in, is to help muddle through and find those kinds of great factories, great places to source, great ways to source those products and go from there. And so that's kind of the tricky part, is like, where do you start? And that's what you were alluding to with courses. Coursework can either be through hundreds and not thousands of dollars of going through videos and researching, or it's going to be talking to individuals like us who are have done it, have educated people, and they kind of walk you through, and it's kind of a learning curve.
Well, even with sourcing those products initially, just finding a product to sell on Amazon and actually getting a product to Amazon, there's a huge disconnect in education, I think. I think there's a ton that talks about finding a product, and they try to lay out this cookie cutter method for, hey, look for something that's trending, non-seasonal, it's small, it's lightweight, high volumes, low competition. They throw out all these buzzwords to really capture, hey, I know what I'm talking about, that sort of audience. And they try to say, hey, this is how you find a supplier on Alibaba, this is how you vet them, but there is no two methods that are going to work exactly the same every time. To put it short, there's no cookie cutter method to sourcing from overseas at all, ever. No matter what anyone says. Someone could have been successful with doing the same way 10 times, but on their 11th time, it's completely different because they're throwing a new ball game. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is just being prepared for it, I think, and it's being educated about it. And that's why I truly do appreciate that you brought us in to talk about this, because that was the topic that I wanted to say, actually, just the preparedness. And this is why we have an RFQ guideline. I'll give it to you after this so you can plug in the rest of the audience.
For sure.
But I know we just released I believe it was an Instagram story that just talks about what to include in when I say RFQ, it's a request for a quote from suppliers overseas. Right. And of course, aside from the product specifications, it's important to also realize the packaging specifications. What's going to go on that box? Can you do without a fully customized box? Can you sell it in just a plain brown box with a sticker on it? How protected is that product? Are you going to need EPS or expanded polystyrene, which a lot of us know as styrofoam, but your factories may not know that as styrofoam. And then key quality indicators aside from that. So, letting the factory know, hey, these are some of the indicators that I am looking for when I'm inspecting this product. Do you hear that in the background?
There's a little bit. It's okay. Okay. It's not a big problem. It's okay. It's part of.
This is part of from home.
Oh no, it's a part of going live. And like once I'll kind of like jump on here and kind of reintroduce us to the audience. Everyone, again, welcome. My name is Ryan Kramer. I'm with PingPong Payments. I'm the affiliate marketing manager here, and my job is to bring you education and content in a different perspective on different entities in the e-commerce atmosphere. So whether that's, sourcing and shipping, finding your products, ranking your products. If I talk too fast, let me know, because I have so much on my plate and on my mind to tell you. My job here is to obviously.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem whatsoever. So my job here is to get people's information and to distribute it in an educational way and give a different perspective. It's not a hard sell on a different company or different service. Our job here is to provide opportunity for you as Amazon sellers, wherever you're located around the world, to get the best information that you can possible to make sure that you are going to grow as an entrepreneur, because that's at the end of the day what we want to do. We're live right now. Oh, nope. I don't have you, Francois, so I'll keep talking until. That's not good.
Sorry,
so let me
threw everything off.
Oh, no, it's okay. If you want to change your settings, I can keep talking. But yeah, until we get Francois back, and he can hear us, I'll keep talking to our audience. So everyone, my job here is to kind of give that educational perspective on what we do with both PingPong payments in general, because we are a cross-border payments entity. This is something where I invite guests on for people that I know in the industry who can help answer questions, both on, today we have Francois with Noviland about logistics and the kind of ups and downs of the logistics supply chain, sourcing products from overseas or sourcing from different companies. So maybe Francois has me back. Francois, can you hear me?
Yeah, just reconnecting this really quick.
Francois, we got your, if you can see some of the comments we have coming in. Thanks everyone for letting us know that you have we have a couple comments. The first comments we have, the joys of technology. I agree, Hamish. That is completely true. The joys of technology and going live. So in the world, I will continue to keep on talking until I have Francois back. Francois, do you have me?
I will be
Can you
back
hear me?
in 1 second. I'm trying to get
No problem.
Headphones.
Again, the joys of technology. Like
Okay.
I said, Lisa says the joys of working from home.
Well, we're good to go back.
You got me back. And for those of you who don't know, yeah, hey, no problem. The joys of working from home, like Lisa says. I know Lisa works with you over at Noviland, so hello, Lisa. Thanks for joining in and tuning in with us. But yeah, everyone, again, that's kind of the point of what we're talking with crossover commerce. Again, with having people on like Francois, kind of going through the educational purposes of what we're doing here. We both work for companies that offer a different service in the e-commerce space, but we want to educate you, either the seller, or if you have a problem, we want to make sure we're bringing great educational content in order to get you a different perspective and hopefully grow in that context. So I'll bring Francois back in here. Francois.
Yes,
welcome back.
Thank you. It was, I guess, the Bluetooth from the shower room somehow picked up on my girlfriend's phone. It was a whole mess, but I apologize.
Hey, joys of being live, man. I love it. I've forgotten, for those of you who haven't tuned in before, or this is your first time live on the show, I've forgotten the name of the show. I've forgotten that my microphone is off, so I've done that before. There's a lot of different things that can just go wrong going live. So thanks again for everyone who's tuning in. Hopefully you stayed with us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook as well. So Francois, kind of jumping back into it, we're talking misconceptions of the supply chain. And if you're just joining us, if you have questions, comment on submit your questions on the comments below. We will see all of those, and we want to make sure we answer any kind of questions that you guys have. So misconceptions. So we talked a little bit about just education and starting your journey in terms of the supply chain, how you're finding it. Let's say, for example, you go through the courses, you're ready to make that leap of a product. Like, this is the next product that I think I can invest in, and I can I can make some money on the Amazon marketplace or Shopify or wherever you're selling. What's kind of those next steps that you educate your customers, your clients, in order to grow and kind of guide them along the right path?
Yeah, so for starters, it's being realistic with a budget. I think really understanding what you are willing to pay for your products is important. So setting a target price. And there's this new concept in sort of developing all this. that I've been thinking a lot about, and it got triggered from listening to one of Reid Hoffman's Masters of Scale podcasts. They were talking about it for their employees, but it translates really well to Amazon sellers, and that's having a need and a wish list. And so on that need list, it's really understanding things like, what is your target pricing? What is your maximum budget? So I'm not willing to spend over $6,000 for product and shipping, for example. I'm not willing to pay more than $5 for this product, and not going in necessarily with an approach of, I'm going to negotiate this down to as little as I possibly can before even reaching out to anyone. So just to stick to the pricing topic, if your manufacturer can give you at $5, and you said, I need this product to be $5, it's not going in and thinking, I think I could get it down to $4.80. Now, negotiating is a great strategy, of course, to increase those margins for you. But that's not the best way to establish a long-lasting relationship with your suppliers. Because the first thing that they're going to see is, oh, this guy's difficult. I don't want to work with them. They're asking me for 20% off right now. How are they going to be in 6 months? What's going to happen if there's a few defects? And so approaching it with those two needs and not the wishes. Same thing on the products and the packaging. Do you need that card insert, or is that 15 additional cents going to translate to an additional $1 for your product sales, or a better customer experience, or more reviews? So understanding all these needs is important. And then having that wish list is just as important, because it gives you a long-term strategy, right? I wish this product could get down to $4.50. Now, how do I make that happen? I'll speak to my supplier. I'll say, hey, I'm just testing the market this time. I only want 500 units. And they'll listen. They'll say, okay, I appreciate your honesty, or I can't just do, I can't do it. It's peak season. I need 2,000 MOQ, things like that. And then you'll get a quick no, right?
Right.
But at least you're not getting dragged on with that maybe, where you could be talking to 5 other manufacturers that are saying, yeah, I could give it to you at $5, and it could have these specifications and at 500 MOQ. And if you want to hit 450, you're going to have to order, 35 to 4,000 units.
Right.
So it's developing a need and a wish list, I think, is most important to begin with.
Absolutely. And you as a seller, and I think the biggest piece of advice is that make sure you know your budget, and make sure you know how much money you can spend going into this and invest in this, because I think that's a big key that a lot of people don't necessarily know, is do your work beforehand. Get quotes from multiple manufacturers. If you're looking to start a product, if it's a couple thousand units, and that's what MLQ would be, units that you would have to order from them to ship overseas, in minimum quantity is what it stands for. So things like that, you have to do the research beforehand and make sure that you have the right funds in order to be able to pay those suppliers. And Francois, how do you introduce people, potential sellers, to those different manufacturers or sourcing agents? Is that you have a list that you guys work with that you're certified, or where do you direct people to get started on that?
Yeah, so we don't ever actually have them do a one-on-one interaction with manufacturers. In part, it's due to education. It's due to them not necessarily knowing the most effective way to work with those manufacturers, and that's perfectly fine. We work with Fortune 500 companies where their purchasing manager might not be the best suited to negotiating with factories. It could be a culture thing. It could be they're just too aggressive with their negotiations, and they may not see the potential compromises that the factory is making. That's fine. That's what we are really good at. So whenever a factory will say yes, because it's very commonplace for a factory not to necessarily say, I want to add this handle on to a regular cup. They'll just say yes. Yes, we could do that. They won't say, yes, that's 5 additional cents, and this is the extra manufacturing process that has to go into it. That's the extra finishing process, and this is why it's an additional 50 cents. Now, with us, we will pry into those details. We will ask the factories, what exactly are you changing to be able to justify this price? And how are you able to achieve, such a cheap price or such an expensive price? And just being able to do that, 1, in Chinese, 2, understanding the culture fully, and being able to talk to them about the manufacturing process is just as important. And three, trying to find the red flags. So trying to find, are they just saying that they could do this, or are they excited about it, or are they telling me the manufacturing process that go into it? A very knowledgeable factory will go into those details with you. And so that's just one red flag that we look for. But I guess to go back to your question, our users tend to work directly with us and our product specialists, those ones that are specialized in it, and then we work at the factories on their behalf.
Sure, it makes sense, and that's something that a lot of people, maybe might be a little scared to do initially, just because whether it's the communication barrier, whether it's just hey, I don't know who I want to deal with or negotiate on that behalf. That's where a lot of people maybe are just a little weary to jump in. There are I know there are lots of different companies that do what you guys do. What do you suggest to them when they're saying, hey, I've worked with these kind of sourcing agents in the past? And that's a very broad term. I wouldn't classify every person as a sourcing agent, but companies like Noviland, what's kind of that difference factor that, you can say, well, we actually have these kinds of benefits and factors. Is it just because your relationship with factories? Is it, you guys have gone through the weeds, so you can say, hey, we've done this before, we know, and we can learn from our mistakes, and we've iterated from that?
Well, I think the biggest two things are honesty and communication, because we really love to treat every single one of our users as a partner rather than just a transaction. Even the ones that try to approach us as just a transaction, which is perfectly fine, right? Sort of in this age of consumerism, everyone's leaning towards transactions over relationships. We'll tell you if we don't have a factory for you. We'll tell you if the sample that we receive just seems like a horrible quality sample, and we'll actually work on your behalf. So we never accept money from the manufacturers, whereas traditionally in sort of a sourcing agency model or a trade agency model, they'll charge both the buyer and the seller. So you're not necessarily always, your best interest isn't their best interest, I guess is one key factor in it. It's also streamlining those communications and weeding out the factories that aren't honest about what they can do. And I see Hamish, mentioned transparency is key. That's true, but on both sides. So this is why we also speak with all of our users, because we have to know their honest plans. You can only go so far when you start off a relationship with a lie. So saying, hey, I'm going to order 200 units this time, but the next time I promise, or I swear it'll be 5,000 units. If that product's not successful, you're not going to order 5,000 units. There's no reason of saying that you're going to order 5,000 units.
Right.
And so when we talk to factories, we're also honest with them. We tell them, hey, look, these are the types of users that, are working on this project. This is, the actual budget. And then we start working on price negotiations. So if we can get it for $1.50 and you're looking for it for $2, you'll see $1.50 from us. Biggest part there is that we understand that money is better used in your pockets, whether it's for PPC, whether it's for ordering more products. We never make money unless any of our users place an order. We don't charge for quotes. We don't charge for samples. We literally don't make any money until someone places an order.
Which is a scary thing on the business side, everyone. I'm just telling you for a fact. It's a scary thing, but I think that's a good model to have as a business, because you want to do right by the customer, because you want to find quality products. If the customer is doing well, your company will do well, and vice versa. So you're on behalf of the customer. If they're not happy, they're obviously not going to work with you, and then no one's going to buy the product. That's a missed opportunity for everyone involved. So I think that definitely makes sense. What's kind of the scariest, maybe we'll start driving from the path a little bit. Maybe what's some of the scariest things that you as a company or you personally have seen come across? Maybe it's because of the pandemic we're in. Maybe it's because of just more people are trying to jump into the e-commerce space. What's kind of those scarier stories maybe you can share with people, and how did you guys kind of learn and grow from that?
Well, it was actually one of our current customers down in Florida. They were looking for a LDPE resin. to make.
And what does that mean for people who don't know?
LDPE resin are little resin pellets, essentially, that a manufacturer in the U.S. would use to manufacture plastic products.
Okay.
So they were making bags, I believe they were, and they came in for a quote with us, and I believe we were $2,000 over per ton of the resin than someone that they found on Alibaba. Completely true story. Yeah, hand of the Bible, whatever. Yeah.
So you guys found the product. It was, you quoted them $2,000 more, and then someone else found the same product on Alibaba. Which, for people who don't know, Alibaba is a sourcing company. Basically, they manufacture very similar to Noviland, where you can source products from Alibaba, and it's one of the larger, I would say, sourcing sources. Yeah, it's a marketplace. Yeah. I mean, it's a marketplace, but you can buy goods from there, essentially.
Right. So it's an open marketplace similar to Craigslist, if you're familiar with Craigslist in the early 2000s, where anyone can sign up as a supplier, anyone can transact with you, very pay to play, not necessarily a bad thing, because it's a very commendable marketplace, but you can also pay to become a verified gold supplier, and that process itself isn't the most transparent. But going back to that story where we were $2,000 more, we were just about fair market value. And they decided, okay, I'm going to go with the other supplier. They sent me samples. They sent them an entire sample, which was essentially a drum filled with the resin. They're like, okay, this must be legit. They're $2,000 less. It's going to be a long-term, annual contract. Mm-hmm. They signed it. They sent it over. They received their first container, all beach sand.
No
resin whatsoever. All beach sand filled in the drums themselves.
So you're telling me, so they sent a legitimate sample, and then they filled the order for how many units they put that order in, and then they filled it with beach sand?
Filled it with beach sand.
So what's kind of the ramifications of that if you're a seller? You're like,
there's nothing they could do about it, because they spent, I think it was maybe like $40,000-$50,000. They had a contract with them, but to litigate over $40,000 or $50,000, you're going to be investing a few $100,000 most likely. Plus, you have to find the company. The company obviously just took down all the profile and just disappeared. It's a fly-by-night company in an open marketplace, which was the unfortunate side. So now they still have to work on the project, and we helped them out with finding a trusted source to actually source that resin. I think that was one of the scariest stories I've heard from one of our users. But I guess scary as a company, it's making sure everyone's happy all the time on both sides, making sure that the factories are happy, making sure that all of our users are happy. And if that doesn't terrify a company, then you shouldn't be in the service industry. I mean, if you're not trying to do right by your users at all times, you shouldn't be servicing anyone. So I guess to answer it fairly broadly, it is making sure everyone's happy all the time. Of course, people are going to be unhappy, but it's being proactive and making sure that they don't leave with a bad taste in their mouth. That you are able to solve the problems for them and make their lives easier. Because the supply chain is messy. Things are going to go wrong no matter who's dealing with it. But it's, do you have the right partners on your side to actually deal with them as well?
Right. So when it comes to shipping and things like that, obviously manufacturers, are making the product. What about the, the shipping side of things? Because for a lot of people don't know, if you're shipping from an overseas supplier, you have to plan weeks, if not months in advance for even just the slightest hiccup, whether it's, maybe go through some of those like stories of, if people don't understand kind of the timeline, people right now are placing orders for the Q1, Q2, more than likely Q1 right now still, for next year. They've already done their sourcing. They've already done their inventory drop into like Amazon warehouses, their own warehouses to fulfill goods already. They did that earlier this summer. So when you're projecting those kinds of timelines, how are you working with people to understand like, hey, this could potentially happen? Like your freighter could tip over in the ocean. You could be caught up in customs. Your truck could not get to the warehouse, or it just not get there. What do you guys, telling people, and how do you like walk them down that line?
Yeah, and that's going back to transparency, I think. like I just mentioned, nothing is ever going to be 100% guaranteed or risk-free, but it's about mitigating as many of those risks as possible. So properly classifying HS codes, booking that vessel 2 to 3 weeks in advance, as a freight forwarder, telling your customers that the price that you're getting right now, 1 month in advance, is more than likely not going to be the same price at the end. So making sure that they account for that, being honest about the space that they're actually using. I've seen so many freight forwarders quote, 3 or 4 cubic meters, and when they came to us, we found out, well, based on your outer, box dimensions, it's only about 2. So you should only be paying for 2. And also, being proactive in every step of the way. So working with the trucking companies to make sure that they pick up from the docks on time, and that, we're not going to pay extra in demurrage or in truck holding fees, which so many companies are getting hit with now more than ever because they are using third-party logistics centers. And so for those of you that aren't familiar with it, Amazon FBA does a great job with a lot of partner trucking companies where they can drop off, LCL or small parcel or full truckload, or even full containers there. And they'll give them back another container, and then they can take them back. But now when you're working with a 3PL warehouse or fulfillment warehouse, because let's say Amazon is throttling your inventory, or you got wise and you wanted to start doing multi-channel fulfillment. So let's say, eBay and Walmart and Target and Wayfair and all these different marketplaces also. Well, now when you're shipping to them, they don't have those same capabilities. And they're going to have much tighter space capacities, where Amazon obviously has these massive warehouses that can take in these different sizes of products and a lot of automation involved with it. A general 3PL warehouse is very traditionally, just a couple of guys that are unloading from a container. And so they're coordinating with the truckers. The truckers need to coordinate with the freight forwarders. Freight forwarders need to coordinate with the suppliers. And if you just mess up in one link of that, your entire process is screwed. You could be paying hundreds. I've seen in some instances thousands of dollars in truck storage yards and truck waiting fees, because you only have 2 hours to unload a container, typically for free. I've seen truckers, and this has even happened in our warehouses, where someone is shipping something to us and the truckers don't call us until the last free day, or it's called the LFD for short. And they'll say, hey, we have a container, we need to send it in 15 minutes. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell us before? What
exactly. We talked about this, guys, to give us a heads up.
Yeah. And so now the shipper is resulted in paying, daily truck yard fees, or if you receive it, they may be paying their warehousing, additional fees for receiving it that day. For truck waiting time, it could be up to, $80, $90 an hour. So it's being informed about all these things. And what we really try to do is let all of our users know, hey, these are the risks that you're taking right now. It's not preventable if you wait until the last second, obviously, but we try to prevent them by actually taking care of it for them. So where they might be at work and, their head's buried in their computer, we're saying, hey, this is going to arrive to the U.S. port in 2 weeks. Now we have to clear it through customs. Let's go ahead and send those declarations in to try to clear it early, not have it wait or be inspected by customs there. Make sure that the truckers are picking it up on time, making sure it's being delivered and coordinated on time. And of course, things slip through the cracks, but it's, again, having someone that represents you that can take care of those problems in real time and proactively.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's kind of the next steps for Noviland and kind of those iterations? Is it basically expanding your offering in terms of like services, or is it just getting better at, like, maybe it's an international focus? You guys are all located all over the world. Let me speak a little bit better. So you guys are working with both United States sellers, but also international sellers, I'm assuming, correct?
Right. So we have customers in Australia, France, I believe Germany, UK definitely, Canada, the US. But next steps for us are really expanding our network. I would say. I mean, we've gotten into all the services. So we handle sourcing, we handle logistics, we handle quality control, we handle 3PL fulfillment and warehousing. But it's opening up that factory network to be outside of just China. Obviously, it's in the next decade, there's going to be this China plus one, which Nicola Bardwaj talks a lot about. And, I've had a few conversations with her. Extremely intelligent woman. She knows what she's talking about when it comes to sourcing in India or in manufacturing and logistics. Right. But I think that's one of our key focuses. It's opening that up to where someone might be able to source more successfully in Mexico than they would in China, or in India as opposed to China. So that's really where we're looking towards.
Gotcha. Do you see a big play for a lot of? I know here, because we're both located in the United States, do you see that there's a more competitive growth for manufacturers in China? And by manufacturers, everyone out there who's listening, again, thanks for joining us. I'll reintroduce us real quick. I'm Ryan Kramer with PingPong Payments. I'm the affiliate marketing manager here on Crossover Commerce, my show where I bring on guests in the e-commerce industry to give a different perspective and hopefully grow in terms of e-commerce and Amazon selling. I have Francois from Noviland, who's the business development manager, been there almost, since day one. You were mentioning earlier about your background there. So his expertise is in sourcing, logistics, opportunities, or, different kinds of like supply chain management in that capacity for sellers internationally and domestically here in the United States. But both of our companies are international. I want to take this question kind of maybe more United States route. You always see, the comparison between it's cheaper if you source your product from overseas. Is that always 100% the case, or can you find good competitive manufacturers here in the United States or in North America, or maybe just places that not a lot of people, think about looking? Because I feel like number 1 and 2 is China and India. Is that almost always the case, or?
I think it will be. Now, there's a lot of conversation around nearshoring or just bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. And I think in certain aspects, particularly when it comes to maybe construction products or more raw materials with lumber, that could be the case. But when you're talking about at a grand scale, what a company is going to look at is what's in the best interest of their shareholders, right? Why would I manufacture it here in the U.S. when I can get it for a quarter of the price in Mexico, or I can get it for a tenth of the price in China? And they just have such powerhouse of supply chains, India and China and Vietnam even, and Malaysia, a lot of Southeast Asian countries in general, where their infrastructure is really built around manufacturing. And when you have a country that does that, it's going to be hard to compete. And when that's not America's sole focus, we're very, consumer-centric, service-based country. I think we're going to continue sourcing from those countries regardless.
Do you foresee that being an issue? Whether it's we're not being political in one way, shape, or form. It's just economics in general of when you have international sellers or people that are just, if you're looking for goods to manufacture that. Do you think that the price is always going to outweigh, hey, made in the United States or made in company XYZ? Do you think that will more than likely trump it all the time?
I would
say price outweighs where it's located and where it's sourced from.
Yeah, I think the more that we move into e-commerce, it's going to stay that way because people aren't staying loyal to, a U.S. brand necessarily and saying, oh, that is a U.S. brand that I want to buy because it's made in the USA. Now, there's that niche, definitely, where people love to buy made in the USA products and they don't care about how much more expensive it is. But the vast majority, I would say, of even my friends and families that I know that are more so in that middle class section, they don't care. They just want a cheap product. They're like, why would I buy this GoPro for $400? I could buy the one with a Chinese symbol on it for $50.
Right. And again, that's a loyalty thing. And I think that's a psychological behavior that has changed over time. I don't think one way or another it's a bad thing or a good thing. I just think at the end of the day, a lot of people look at their pocketbook, try to get very comparable, if it's good quality product, which again, manufacturers in overseas markets, when I say overseas, again, if you're tuning in from Asia or India or any of those overseas, we're located here in the United States for this perspective. You still see very high quality products coming out of those countries more often than not. And that's why a lot of people continue to go back there. The reason why they're so cheap, I believe more often than not, is because of just the labor force that they're able to pay, their workers. Again, that's a different different road to go down, but not to bring anyone down. And obviously we just had so many different like political ramifications with elections here still going on in the United States. But I still think that e-commerce in general will be needed. Economies are built on these partnerships and these infrastructures. Like you said, China and India did a very good job of establishing those things. I think from what I'm hearing from you, Francois, is that the United States doesn't just put effort into, wanting to take over that marketplace. They would rather consume it and rather get it sourced than manufacture and outsource. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair to say.
Okay.
I don't think it'll change anytime soon.
Right. So what's kind of where are you guys as a company? And we're kind of coming up on time. And again, thanks for everyone for joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, all of our social media channels. If you like what you hear, obviously like our channels, follow Noviland, obviously follow PingPong Payments for future episodes. We are actually talking again next week on a webinar that PingPong's hosting. So you'll get us two back along with another individual who's talking about VAs, which will be really cool, Nathan Hirsch. But for those of you who are, maybe ask questions, feel free to comment below, and we'll make sure that Francois gets those questions and he can answer, and his team is available for those as well. Maybe a couple other things. What's kind of that projection? What are you kind of forecasting for your team, for yourself, in that growth model for the next, maybe year, 3 years or so? What's kind of that look like for you guys?
It's funny. I just had a conversation like very similar to this with Lisa, just in general, and it's very hard to say, right? Because as a startup, your ultimate goal is really just to make an awesome product, or some startups' goals are really just to make it as much money as possible. Fortunately and unfortunately, that's not our target. Our target is actually to make the supply chain a much more streamlined and safe, just supply chain, I guess, for lack of a better term, where not just the Fortune 500s and not just the medium to large size enterprise businesses in the US and globally are able to take advantage of China and Indian manufacturing and Vietnamese manufacturing, but really the everyday players, the Amazon sellers, the Walmart marketplace sellers, the Target sellers, any third-party seller that really wants to start a business and is serious about it, it's opening those doors for them and making sure that learning curve isn't as costly as it was pre-Noviland, I like to say, and building that platform out to make it as simple as possible, where you shouldn't be jumping through 20 hoops to find a good manufacturer. As long as you know what you're looking for in your product, we should be able to help you. So our goal really is to really perfect this and take this international, more so just outside of China, and grow in different manufacturing markets, and opening new opportunities for new businesses.
That's awesome. And I mean, that's obviously good to see that you guys are growing, continue to help customers. I'm sure your customers, if they're tuning in right now, love to hear what you guys' vision is growing. Is it outside of Amazon, or are you guys looking to continue to kind of focus on that Amazon sellers landscape?
Well, I think that landscape itself is changing, right? Walmart just came out with Walmart Plus, and now their marketplace is expanding exponentially with the US and Canada. I mean, it's lower fees, it's lower competition, PPC is cheaper. So I think as that grows, you will see a larger section of Amazon sellers, which are really just e-commerce businesses, expand into these new markets. So we're not focused on Amazon. We're really good with prepping, consolidating and doing all that for Amazon FBA and FBM, but it's helping companies go multi-channel also. It's helping them get into Wayfair, going to Walmart, and fulfilling those orders for them. Because there's so much more out there than just Amazon. Obviously, Amazon's the biggest one, the easiest one, I would say.
The biggest piece of the pie, yep. Exactly.
It is. But there's so much more of that pie that other companies can gobble up. So it's finding new opportunities for our users and our customers and helping them successfully streamline their supply chains.
100%. I think that's just a ton of information, obviously, that we take away from today. I never want to get a bucket of sand. And if I'm thinking one thing and I get a bucket of sand, I think there's going to be a lot of people in my household or wherever your business is that's going to be quite upset. And so that it's a scary, realistic, obviously something that could happen. But obviously companies like you exist to kind of help mediate, make sure those things don't happen. If people have more questions for you, Francois, what's kind of the best way to get in touch with you? I know obviously Noviland.com is where you guys live on the website, but what's kind of the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can shoot us an email, inquiries@noviland.com, or they can shoot me an email directly. I have no problem with that. Francois@noviland.com. My name is spelled funny, so thank you for putting that up there.
I gotcha.
Yeah, definitely reach out to us there. You can reach out to us on Facebook. Our messenger is always live. When we're away, we try to still answer those questions. Facebook, yeah. Instagram DMs. That's another method that anyone can really get a hold of us. Just follow us on Facebook, and you'll learn as much education about supply chain as possible too.
Right. And you guys just recently came out with a podcast, correct?
Not yet.
Or coming out. To be determined, yeah.
To be determined. Lisa's going to kill you for trying to accelerate that.
Sorry, Lisa, if you're listening. I think you guys have a lot of great content. So yeah, if that's something to come down the way, what are you going to be? What's going to be the topic of your guys' show?
I'm not sure yet. That's still something that we're sort of hashing out. Hopefully in Q1. That's something that we are aiming for. So I will keep in touch with you. No matter what, we'll have you on. I want to learn more about PingPong payments as well. And I know it's going to help out a lot of our users because PingPong is kind of new to the game. It's already a pretty big company, but it's kind of new to the game, I think, for Amazon sellers. So I think it's important for more of them to actually understand what it is.
Yeah, I'll give a quick plug of PingPong. For those of you who don't know, obviously we're a cross-border payments solution, helping people save money when you're selling internationally or sending your VAT authorities their tax, or even just paying your suppliers overseas. Very similar to what Noviland does. We actually help you. This is funny because my boss is like, make sure you always talk about PingPong. But yeah, the plug for PingPong, obviously that's not what this platform is, but PingPong can obviously help create that international bank account, and you need to pay your suppliers and not always have to exchange rate or pay, if you're in the United States, pay USD to RMB. In China, that exchange rate, they're going to tack on fees. Most often than not, your suppliers are going to tack on those fees, which is terrible for you. So we help you establish those international bank accounts for free and get them going. And obviously the FX rates, you can have a low fee and working with that. So if you want to learn more, obviously usa.pingpongx.com. Thank you for that natural segue to my little 15-second pitch of PingPong. But everyone, for Noviland and for PingPong, you need more information. You just need to throw around some ideas. Please reach out to our contact us forms. This is a platform. We just want to provide education and obviously for more help on those platforms and marketplaces. That's where our services kind of excel and help people grow. So for Francois, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to kind of cap us off, and then I'll see you next week. I know. Yeah. So for everyone joining, thank you again. I'm Ryan Kramer with PingPong Payments. I'm the affiliate marketing manager. This is Crossover Commerce. For future episodes, like us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. We'll be pushing all that. Follow Noviland as well for all their future content and helping Amazon and e-commerce sellers. Thanks again for everyone joining us.
Bye, guys.